Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Hello and welcome back to TalkLivi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Ewan and today I'm joined by the whole team. I know it's a shock for everyone. Andy, Angus and the two Callums are here to discuss what's been a fantastic festive period so far. Guys, how was our Christmas?
Yeah, no, my Christmas has been good, yeah. Spent on Zoom call with the family because obviously everything that's going on in the world and the new lockdown and things. So my brother and my nephew and that were going to be coming up on Boxing Day, but unfortunately that couldn't happen. So we had a nice Zoom call and quizzes, and we had a nice meal on Christmas Day. So yeah, all round it's been pretty good, aye.
It was a good one, mate. No milking of the cows on Christmas Day, so got to spend the day with the family for it. So it was good, mate. How about yours?
Yeah, it was all good. Just spent it with my mum and dad, as similar to Andy, because of the COVID rules. Wasn't able to see a lot of folk, but managed to convince the girlfriend to come and keep me company watching the Kelly game yesterday, which I'm sure she was delighted about. But no, it was all good. Wee bit different than normal, but still good all the same.
I can't add much more to that. Basically the exact same. Trying at the Zoom call on Christmas, that was a new experience, but I managed to make the most of it, which you always have to do at Christmas anyway. So very good all round.
And Bruni, obviously, yesterday, is that why the comms went off in the Kelly game yesterday? Because you were watching Soccer Saturday? Were you trying to keep up to date with that?
There we go. He's finally got out from under the thumb and he's giving me abuse. Brilliant. No, I don't know, mate. The commentary was a bit dodgy yesterday. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, can only apologise for that. It wasn't, anything myself and Dave could have done. But, the main thing is we won. So, end of the day, that we're all good.
I don't think he's have sounded better.
Brilliant. See, this is why I don't turn up. I just get a torrent of abuse.
You deserve it. Every week you deserve it. It's been a busy week this week, so coming up on this episode, we look back at our midweek pre-Christmas win over Hamilton, a dominant display as the Lions won on Wednesday night. And we then look back at the Kilmarnock game. Nothing quite beats a last-minute winner to keep this win and run alive. And next up, we'll look ahead to our next game against Aberdeen. And we'll also look ahead to our first game of 2021, which is our trip to the capital to face Hibs.
On Wednesday night, Livy made the short journey along the M8 to face a struggling Hamilton side, who are always a threat given our previous record in Lanarkshire. Thankfully, though, a dominant Livy display was to follow. A 2-0 win for the Lions, flattering the home side. Delighted with that win, and it's kept David Martindale's unbeaten run going. 100% record for him.
Yeah, it was a great night. A really good performance from start to finish. I think we set the tone really early on. Pittman had a good chance, which he kind of got across at front post, side netting. But I think we absolutely dominated the ball throughout the game. I think Holt and Sibbald in particular were the real standouts for me throughout it. The amount of second balls they picked up, they barely allowed Hamilton to get out their half. And we looked absolutely solid. How we went in at the break 0-0, I'm not quite sure. Robbo's hit the bar, good header. Winnie's came in at the back stick. I think he should probably go for goal himself. I think he's trying to be unselfish. And then Guthrie's one that he's had to react quite quickly too, in front in the 6-yard box, and we really should have been ahead at half time, but we were persistent and we kept going, kept plugging away. Got the goal early in the second half. Great delivery great hang up at the back post by Holt for Guthrie to attack. Good header as well. And as the game wore on, Aki's obviously had to come out a little bit, and I think, kind of as I thought might happen, we looked like we were going to pick them off for a second one. Couple of good chances that the likes Robbo had coming in on the left-hand side. I think Jet made a bit of an impact when he came on as well. And then obviously wrapped up the points. Josh Mullen late on, great free kick, great way for him to celebrate what's been a very good week for him. Obviously he's expecting a baby and his 100th appearance for the club as well. So all round it was a really, really good performance. To me, it was quite reminiscent of the Dundee United game in the way that we dominated the game kind of for vast majority of the 90 minutes.
Well, I totally agree with what Ewan said there, and I think that when you look at the first goal, and I thought at that stage it was getting to the stage of the game that we had to score. I had that feeling that the longer the game was going on at 0-0, we were always going to get potentially suckered into a standard Hamilton 1-0 victory when we go there. We've been on top in games, and I think a lot of credit has to go to Guthrie. He stepped out of defence to go and win that ball, a bit like what he was doing last season. It seems like the confidence is back within the players, and you could see that with the way that we were just pinging the ball about on Wednesday night. I think that was probably the best part for me, that we went there, we controlled the game, we created all these chances in the first half, and the heads didn't go down. We continued playing the same game plan, and we continued to go, and we never hit that stage at the first 15 minutes of the second half where it was stale. Normally come out, it can be a little bit lethargic. We've seen in previous performances from Livingston, and we just continued that dictating the tempo, and I thought Holt was brilliant. The ball that he's played in for Guthrie's continued to go forward and go for the attack, and a great header. But and then we should, to be honest, we should be winning that game more than 2-0. I think we're lucky that the way that we've went on that bit of form at the moment, that goal difference is probably as massive as points for us as well at the moment, and a couple more goals would have made it a little bit better, but can never complain with picking up the points at Christmas. It's more about getting the results on the board, points on the table, and we keep marching on and go forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with what I think he's spot on in the fact that obviously 0-0 at half time, but I was sort of similar to him, like it's Hamilton away, stuffy team, they're likely to sit in. I think there was a game we dominated back maybe a couple of seasons ago. I think they actually went down to 10 men themselves and hit us on the counter attack and somehow come away 1-0 winners. So I was thinking hopefully it's not a one of those, but yeah, very, very dominant. I think one of us could have played in goals, if I'm honest, for Livy. I don't think they had a shot on goal. Stragic, very, very comfortable, probably the best, the easiest clean sheet he'll ever make in his career. But no, very, very dominant and brilliant to see, obviously, because they came to the Tony Macaroni and obviously didn't really have to do anything to get the 3 points. I thought we were poor that day, and it was nice to get a wee bit of revenge. And of course, that extends the gap between us and the bottom two, as it were. I think we're miles clear of that now, and any early season worries, which I always thought were just worries. I didn't think we were actually going to be involved in a relegation battle. That seems to be a million miles away now.
Yeah, just to kind of expand on, the lads have made it clear that we're very, very dominant. I think David Martindale himself deserves a huge amount of credit for that. Quite a lot of times when you get a new manager in who's never had that kind of managerial experience before, you're sometimes like giving it a couple of months or that to see what can they do, what kind of tactics can they bring in, and I think he got it absolutely spot on. Last week we kind of highlighted how Hamilton's main threats came from wide, and the way that we kind of set up how we had both Alan Forrest and Josh Mullen kind of pushed on to play really, really high and kind of go towards their left and right centre backs. That made their two full backs have to kind of stick with them to follow the runs, which then allowed Serrano and Devlin to then push up, which then made their midfielders hang back, allowing for Holt and Sybil to come in and completely dictate how the game went. And you end up seeing that for our first goal, the breakthrough, ball keeps on getting played about. Who's there to like clear it up? Jason Holt puts it back post, Guthrie headers in, absolutely perfect. And from there, sometimes you get the goal and you kind of sit off. That didn't happen at all. We completely just kept dictating the play, kept going for more. And as you've all said, yeah, 2-0 should have been much more. But 3 points at a tough place to go for some teams. Absolutely delighted with that.
Yeah, I think you've all kind of said it all. I think the pleasing part for me is in seasons gone by, I think the team would have shown that frustration at not getting a goal ahead, and we would have went gung-ho and potentially lost the goal in the break. I think we were very professional on Wednesday. We were undoubtedly the better team. We set up well, albeit against a Hamilton side depleted by injuries and COVID problems. But again, that's not our concern. We've just got to play who we come up against, and I think we've done it excellently. As we kind of said last week, Hamilton's never an easy place to go for us. We always seem to come up short there, but don't think it was ever in doubt the result was going to go our way. We totally dominated from start to finish. I think Hamilton maybe had a 5-minute spell at the start of the second half, but we quickly got on top again. And I think you're right, Angus. I think the way we set up was absolutely perfect in terms of recycling the ball a lot. When Hamilton got the ball, we were recycling a lot, and we were recycling it quite high up the park. As you say, Holt and Sibbald were really influential, but Mullen out wide, I think specifically, he caused a lot of problems going forward and caused, like you say, their full-backs and their wing players to sit back, and they couldn't really get out. And Bruni, you're absolutely right. I don't think Stryjek will have an easier day at the office than what he did. It was an excellent result. 2 really good goals. I think probably if it was my goalkeeper in goals for the Mullen free kick, I'd be having question marks over it slightly. But again, he's put on target. He's got the goal. We come away with 3 points, and it's a brilliant night for us all round.
I just wanted to sort of add a wee bit on Josh Mullen. Obviously, I don't know what you think, but absolutely incredible signing, in my opinion. One of our best, certainly. Up there with Alan Forrest and Fitzwater, even Stryjek, to be honest. For the season, he's come in. I think it was his 100th appearance on Wednesday night against Hamilton, and he's obviously come in from a rival, which again probably weakens them. I'm not sure why he wasn't getting a game or regular game time with Ross County. Obviously, come to an arguably better team now. I think he'll be loving the fact that if he'd have stayed at Ross County, they're sitting bottom of the league, just had their manager sacked and things like that, and now he's come to Livy, seemed to have settled right in with the new sort of squad. I mean, obviously I've known the guys like Davey and the backroom team, but a couple of new players and things. But what a sort of servant he's been to the club over these 100 appearances.
For me, Josh, I'll be honest, his first spell at the club, he obviously was fantastic for us, but I still found that he could be quite frustrating at times. I almost think that extra season in the Championship with Ross County has made him a better player. I think he's a much more complete player coming back to us this time round. I've been really impressed with him since he's came back into the side. And I think that actually proved to be quite a good move for him, getting an extra season at that level in the Championship, because his numbers and stuff were really good for us, but I think he needed to add a few more goals and things like that to his game for an attack-minded player. And the numbers he had that season, Ross County won the Championship in terms of assists and goals. He was incredible for them. So I think Josh is definitely a more complete player coming back to us, and that's been evident to see. I think, Callum, you put in the group chat that he's had 6 assists since coming back in, and that'll be, I think he's got 3 or 4 goals as well on top of that. So great for Josh. As I say, 100 appearances for the club as well now. So I think it was a good bit of business to get him back in, and he's certainly made a difference to the team.
Just picking up on what you're saying there, Bruni, as well, and what he's done since he came in, and it actually has allowed Nicky just to sit back a little bit and defend. It actually seems like we've got a little bit more balance across the team now. We've got that natural width out wide, and when Nicky goes, Josh drops back a bit. and he'll sit back and it offers that, and we're not getting hit in the break. How many times earlier in the season were our wing backs pushing on and they were then breaking. Teams were then breaking on us, and this is where they're getting their opportunities. The last couple of games, there just seems to be a little bit more balance across the full team. People are then dropping in to pick up in players, and I think Josh has offered a lot of that. And his delivery into the box is just creating opportunities. Like even going into the game yesterday, and some of the balls that he's put into the box yesterday as well were absolutely brilliant. He should be converting some of them, and if we keep getting deliveries like that put in the box, then obviously someone's going to be there to be on hopefully be on the end of them to put them in the back of the net. And I just think it's been a brilliant piece of business from us. You could see the buzz for the fans when he came back as well, and he did maybe split the opinion. Folk were maybe saying, and I was probably one of them that was a little bit dubious if he was going to come back and hit the heights that he did in the championship. But when he's came in, he's like Ewan said, he's got that. He's probably got that hunger as well, that he wants to go and prove to Ross County what they're missing out on. He's got that bit between his teeth that he's going out to prove to them that this is a player that they've had, and the opportunities that we're creating now, that he is creating for us.
We're a threat from set pieces again, definitely. I think this season we've been very, very wasteful. Certainly in the early part of the season, since Josh has come in. Maybe again that's Davey taking the reins and maybe working on that more in training. I'm not sure about that, but I think it's no coincidence that since Josh has come in, I mean, that's no disrespect to what Sibbald or Alan Forrest, whoever, who were taking the set pieces, but Josh Mullen's delivery from like corners and deep free kicks and just the way we're working the ball. We've even gone short a few times, even from the long throws. We're not always going long. Sort of Josh Mullen's pulling in, and he's again creating a different angle for a cross. So we're now an absolute threat from. I think every time we get a corner, I'm sort of like, oh, it's going to be, you're expecting a brilliant ball in. So, I mean, that's been a huge positive for me.
Yeah, you definitely do get like a massive boost when you've got somebody with that kind of quality on the ball on your set pieces. Because even if you look at like Celtic right now, how much better they're looking now that David Turnbull started taking theirs, how much more of a threat that they look now rather than having Ryan Christie who can't beat a first man. With Josh Mullen as well, do you think that there's a wee bit of like an instant, like, I feel like it's kind of similar to like how Stephen Lawless was in his second season. So like when Stephen Lawless, his first season, he was kind of having to play as that kind of wing back role. So we didn't really get to see the complete best of him. Maybe the same was with Mullen, perhaps prior to that as well. Now he's got that complete freedom to just play as a right winger. He's not really got to worry about getting back every time because he's got Nicky Devlin right behind him. So I think that might be like a massive like difference as well. He's kind of got a wee bit more freedom to go and burst forward as well. And to kind of like touch on like Stevie Lawless, I think we would have probably at the start of the season been quite worried. How are we going to replace those goals? How are we going to replace those assists? You've said it now, Josh Mullen's got 6 assists since returning, and Alan Forrest is 10 goals for the season? Now we've got 2 players who are creating and scoring, and we've got the balance, as Callum said.
I think there's been a stark contrast in how we've been playing over the last 4 or 5 weeks under David Martindale as to sort of Gary Holtz. I think early in the season we've touched on this a lot. We've tried to work it out for the back a lot more, defenders stepping out for the back and working our way into the box. I think if you look in comparison over our last 5 or 6 games compared to prior to that, I feel like we're putting a lot more crosses into the box. We're getting players forward a lot more. The box is getting packed by attacking players and runners from midfield. We're starting to score goals again. We're creating chances. Whereas you and I mentioned it prior to sort of Gary Holt leaving, that the concern was that we'd stopped creating chances. Well, Martindale's now taking the reins. We're putting balls into the box from everywhere on the park, from our own half, from the centre circle. We're getting balls and we're working them into the box and creating chances. And I think that's a major difference compared to what was happening before. And the fact that we were worried before because we weren't creating chances has completely disappeared. And it's now we're going to score every week. That's the feeling we get. But just quickly before we move on, we spoke about Josh Mullen quite a lot, but who was your standout player on Wednesday night? I think there's one that stands out for me, but it'd be interested to hear your opinions on who you thought ran the show for us on Wednesday. Ewan, what do you think?
I kind of touched on it at the start. I think Holt and Sibbald were the two that really stuck out for me. I think they completely dictated the game. I think Hope probably just edges it partly because of the assist. Brilliant cross for Guthrie's goal. So I would say Hope certainly was the one that probably stuck out. As I say, just the amount of times he recycled the ball was frightening on Wednesday night. The amount of second balls, 50-50s he won in the park and just kept us in the Hamilton half, especially in that first 45 minutes.
I'd probably end up giving it to Guthrie, because of the goal and just the way that we kind of like defended as well. We gave him absolutely no sniffs, and as Callum said earlier, he was like stepping up into play, breaking down attacks, and even getting forward himself. I think it was a real leader's performance from him, and like he filled the gap left by Bartley's suspension perfectly.
For me, it's got to be Robbo. The way that for me, I always think we're better with Robbo in the team. The way that we pressed their backline whenever the ball was getting played short, he's run himself into the ground. The runs across the defenders to create these opportunities. He's putting himself into those different positions. I think that we just looked a better team when Rob was on the park, and I think on Wednesday night that helped us execute the game plan.
Jason Hope for me. Robbo was good. I think maybe the chance he missed a couple of chances for me, but again, as you touched on, Callum, I think he's been fantastic, and we are better with him in the team. But no, Jason Holt, again, not really much to add in terms of what Ewan said. He totally dictated play, was fantastic, and that ball for the goal was incredible, and that was with his left foot as well. So no, he's been a fantastic signing, and obviously delighted to see him extend his deal. I think a couple of weeks ago now, but he's a very important player for us now, and that depth in the middle of the park's frightening now. We were missing Bartley for that game, the captain. Still got the likes of Pittman and Sybil that can do a job, and Holt had come in and obviously did well enough to keep his place for the Kelly game, which we'll go on to speak about. But I hope for me.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in agreement with you and Callum there. I thought Jason Holt, you have said it all. I thought he ran the show and he done an exceptional job stepping up into Marvin's big boots to fill, because he has been a massive part of the better run of form that we've been on. But like you say, Callum, it left big decisions for the management team to make going into the Kilmarnock game. Do we bring Bartley back in? Do we keep Holt? Well, they made that decision, and we'll go on to talk about that in just a wee minute. The games continue to come thick and fast, and on Boxing Day, Livy were again on the road. This time it was a trip to Ayrshire to face another struggling side in Kilmarnock. A ground that Livy hadn't won at since 2004 presented yet another tough-looking challenge, despite the contrast in form of the two sides. Livy showing a different side to them here, coming from behind for the first time under new manager David Martindale, and pulling off an incredible turnaround thanks to a Scotty Robinson stunner with the last kick of the ball. A 2-1 win, 3 top-flight away wins on the bounce for the first time since 2001. This team just keeps getting better and better, lads, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a really good second half performance. I think the first half, I think the conditions probably played a large part in it. It was a bit turgid, the first half is how I would describe it, albeit we could have been 1-0 up inside the first minute. I'll give Danny Rogers credit for the save, but I think Guthrie has to bury that. Free header that far out. He's got the whole goal picked from where he puts it. So really could have been going in at half-time 1-0. Kilmarnock didn't create anything of real note in the first half. That's pretty much all I have in terms of notes on the first half. But second half started off pretty lively. Obviously, Kilmarnock got the penalty. Personally, I've no issues with the penalty being given. I think it's a stonewall penalty. Nicky's arms are out. He's diving across the face of goal. I think it's a penalty. Bucks tucked it away. But what credit to the team, they've responded really quickly. Jet, credit to him getting his first Premiership goal. Question marks over Rogers certainly for the goal, but at the end of the day, if you don't shoot, you don't score. And conditions like that, it's always worthwhile having a wee dig. Sybil had one later on in the game from distance, which could have dipped under the bar. It was a really good effort, but I think as the Kelly had a bit of pressure after we equalised, but I think as the game was wearing on, we certainly looked the more likely team to go and get a winner. I think we did create a few good openings. There was a ball across the back post that Fitzwater, he's ended up clearing it for Kilmarnock rather than putting it back across the face of goal. It's been one. Devlin's came in at the back post. I think he has to hit first time. Robbo's had a couple of chances where he's been slipped in. There was also one Poplatnik had where I think he should have slipped Pittman in later on. But we kept plugging away and we did get that goal. And tell you what a finish it is by Robinson. It's instinctive when the ball's fell to him. He's not even facing goal when the ball's fell to him, and it's an unbelievable finish. And the scenes at the end in the dugout were absolutely brilliant. But I think over the whole piece, I think we probably did just edge the game. As I say, I think as the game was wearing on, we certainly looked the more likely to get the winner, which we did in the end. And it's credit to the team for pushing to try and get the winner. I don't think they were settling for the point, which maybe in the past we might have done. I think we kind of smelt blood a little bit. I think we saw there was an opportunity to go and take the win. And as I say, credit to the team and what a great run of form the team's on just now.
Yeah, I think Ewan summed it up perfectly there. The first half, neither team really did an awful lot, bar the very first minute of the game. You could see and you could hear during the broadcast that basically the conditions were absolutely atrocious. You could see the rain, the wind wasn't playing a good part in it. And to be honest, I don't think there was an awful lot of football at MTD played by either side. I think there was a lot of just hitting, hoping, especially up to two big strikers. I don't think that was the right idea for us, especially with Jet up top, because I think we've all kind of seen now he's not really that kind of target man, and he's not really somebody who's going to run the channels or try and get in behind the defences. So I was a little bit concerned about that at first, just simply due to the fact that it seemed as if like we're just giving away the ball for no reason too easily. And I feel like if we had somebody like Robinson or Poplatnik, we might have had a wee bit more joy, because Broadfoot was coming out of defence of the ball on a few occasions and that. But the main thing was that we kept it compact and tight for the first half. Second half, probably could have got off to a worse start with conceding a penalty, but you have to say bravo to the lads for not getting their heads down from that. They responded absolutely brilliantly, pressed for the next goal. I think for the first goal, is it Josh Mullen takes the ball off of Alan Power? You can see Alan Power. I think he seemed a bit too concerned about other players. I think we had two others coming towards him, managed to nick the ball off him. Jet gets it, takes a shot, and yeah, Danny Rogers should be doing much, much better there. I don't think we'll get an easier goal all season than that, because that's very, very poor goalkeeping. But yeah, as the game went on, I think we came further and further into it, started playing some really nice stuff, and we just looked more hungry for it. And I think Kilmarnock fans would agree with that. I think that's probably the biggest compliment we could have from the game is, if you go on the Kilmarnock Twitter page, you'll see a lot of fans who are quite rightfully angry. They're talking about our side and they're saying, oh, how come they were hungry? How come they wanted it more? Like, that's what we used to be like. Why can't we be like what Livy are doing? And you can't get a better compliment than that at all from a team when you've rightfully beaten them and rightfully outworked them to make them be like, that's what we aspire to be. That's what you want. And that will be a massive credit for Martindale. And the players will take massive joy from that as well. And then the last goal, absolutely superb. What a finish. You talked about the scenes as well. It just makes us miss the football even more. Can you imagine if we were in the away stand for like that going in? Absolute pandemonium it'd be.
I think what the guys have said so far sums up the game perfectly. And when you look at it, for the first half was brutal. I don't think the conditions have helped, but it was an absolute brutal to watch. We should be 1-0 up. Guthrie's got to do a lot better with it. But do you know, when we've conceded the first goal, and I noticed it last night when I was watching Sports Scene, I never picked up on it at the time of the game, but Fitzwater sprints into the goal, picks up the ball, and it's straight back to halfway. And so many times this season you'd see the players turn round and it wouldn't be that reaction. It was basically, let's get back to play our game. Let's just continue what we've done and let's continue going on. And then you look at it for the way that Power gets harassed for the ball by Mullen and Pittman. The two of them are then breaking in and putting the pressure on him. The ball breaks to Jet. He takes a strike. It's the conditions yesterday. It'd be one of those ones that if you're getting an opportunity 25, 30 yards out, take the strike. And that's what's probably been told into the players. And Sybil takes opportunity later on that just goes over the bar. And we've got lucky. We scored. That's fine. We move on, and then we continue to play with our game plan. We continued to harass them whenever they were getting the ball. And I think when Robbo and Matej came on, it gave us that little bit more of a confidence boost as well. Just seemed like the players seemed to go up another notch. And Robinson creating a couple of opportunities. Matej should be slipping in Pittman, and then Pittman probably would have tried to cut it back to someone else to hit the strike instead of himself. But it was that way. There's no better way to win a game of football than that finish. A 92nd minute winner. And I think Jason Holt, the way that he's putting the way that he's won that header to flick it into Robinson. And Robinson takes like a quick glance before the ball comes to him. And it's just right over the top of the keeper and into the back of the net. And do you know the togetherness of the team? It was epitomised in that celebration. Because everyone was together. You see some of the subs running down. You see some of the pictures after the game and the subs are up. The only one that's sitting down was Effie. And it just summed up everything. That it's a feel-good factor. It's back. Weeks ago, we were sitting on here talking about how poor it is and we're going to probably be in a relegation battle. And now we're in the top six. We've just beat Kilmarnock. We've got 3 away wins on the trot. And it's just absolutely brilliant. Brilliant time to be a Livingston fan.
Yeah, just sort of carrying on from what you have been speaking about. We've been I think we've gone back to basics. I think we've all said it at one time or another, that back four now. Ewan's gone on about it a wee bit again last season as well. Sort of that goalkeeper and the back four's been the same, throughout the Martindale era at the minute. Seems really settled. Again, you spoke about it earlier. It seems balanced. The two fullbacks can defend, but they can also go forward. Two centre halves seem very, very solid now. And we're now again defending from the front. Scott Robinson, when he came on, a prime example of that. Obviously, you need that luck through the strike, which Rodgers I think should be doing a lot better. But we've had to make our luck through that. 3 men on Alan Power pressing, and then that goal was just incredible from Robinson, fit to win any game, in my opinion. Particular highlight for me was obviously the scenes at the end, but the fact that didn't notice this at the time, obviously, but watching the replay and that on things like Sports Scene, you look at over on the right hand side, Nicky Devlin and Josh Mullen, as they're both sprinting over, sort of absolutely buzzing. They both sort of turn to the linesman just to double check that it's onside, and then the faces when they realise that it is onside is a picture.
I think the biggest the most pleasing part for me, and I think the gaffer kind of mentioned it in his post match, was the fact that we came back from behind for the first time under him. We've played a lot of good football this season. We've played a lot of really bad football this season, but I think over the last few weeks we've showed 3 or 4 different sides to us in terms of, and still picking up results in terms of playing that dominant style of football at Hamilton, and then went to Kilmarnock, and you mentioned it, Angus, and really awful conditions, and we dug in and we stayed in the game, and we were well in the game, and I felt we thoroughly deserved the points. I don't think Kilmarnock really sort of bothered us in the game. I think there was possibly one chance near the end where Stryjek sort of parries away. Apart from that, I don't think he had an awful lot to do. Whereas, like you said, Ewan, we had plenty of opportunities. I think Pittman put the ball in the net, obviously offside, and then we had the Guthrie chance in the first couple of minutes. Second half, Guthrie had another opportunity. Robbo had a couple of shots at goal, Sybil for long range. So I feel like we more than warranted it. But that showy mental strength for the team to fall behind so early in the second half. We all know it, following Livingston over the years, go behind. We might have struggled to come back for that, but this is a totally different group of players all of a sudden. And, to get that goal back really, really quickly after going behind was vitally important. I'd actually typed out the tweet to put it full time, and in it I'd put, feels like a 2-point dropped game, because that's kind of how it felt. That even though it was pretty even, I felt like it was an opportunity missed for us at that point. And obviously, Rob went up and scored that absolutely sublime goal. And let's be honest, if that was scored by Messi or Ronaldo or anywhere else in the big leagues in the world, people would be going on about it for weeks. It was that good a strike. But I think, that's what, 4 wins in a row in the league. We've catapulted ourselves into the top 6, 10, 11 points away for the bottom 2 places now. It's huge for our season, and we're now starting to look up. In the next few weeks, we could almost start chasing Hibs. I'd made a joke about it a few weeks ago in the group chat about, we're only so many behind Hibs now. But, if we go and win on Wednesday, against Aberdeen, we've got Hibs. If we manage to pick up points against them, we've then got Ross County. We could reel them in, and we could then be the top of the Lothians again, because that's what we're aiming for. And, it's not out with the region of imagination the way we are playing just now, I don't think.
I'll still settle for 10th just now. I'll say that all the time. I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, but our run of form has been very good. There was obviously kind of one change, which was a couple of changes. Alan Forrest came out of side and Bartley came back in. Obviously, Jet came in for Robinson as well. Kind of almost set up more as a 4-3-3. Do you think we talked about the midfield battle with the likes of Power, Tishbola, Malumbu, who kind of started for Kelly? Do you reckon it was almost the counter that, to kind of have a solid 3 in there, and then obviously getting Pittman and likes of Mullen a bit closer to Jet as well?
No, I think you're spot on there, putting those 3 guys, making sure that we could get Bartley and Holt back in the middle of the park. Bartley, Sibbald and Holt in the middle of the park there to try and dictate the play a bit more. You've got a bit more of a physical presence. We're going to go and try and win the individual battles. And I've noticed that a little bit since Davies came in. He's not been scared to change it, the formation, and we've seen that in game as well. The St Johnstone game, we went to match them up during the game because it wasn't working the way that we were playing. And if that means that he's got to sacrifice a couple of players, then he'll sacrifice them. And I think that's also another good thing to see, that no one's just basically is going to just get handed their jersey and told to go and play. You're going to have to earn it. And we've seen that a couple of times probably in the last couple of games. But I think yesterday it worked well for us. We never let them control or dictate play. We never let the likes of Malumbu get going. We never let him pick up the ball and drive forward. There was always someone on him. And you've seen Bartley basically was man marking Power at stages in the first half. He's pressing them high. He was putting in the tackles, putting them under pressure. And that's probably where we were trying to get our success from.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about how trying to keep it kind of like a wee bit like tighter in the midfield. And that's probably the reason why Alan Forrest has found himself probably unlucky to drop out. Forrest is a great player going forward. To be fair, against Hamilton, he did show a lot of great defensive capabilities. But I think for over the most of the game, it's probably did suit having. Was it Pittman who was kind of on the left kind of flank? He wasn't really kind of like a proper winger, but he was kind of drifting towards that kind of side. But you know what Pittman's going to do? He's going to make, it was Aaron McGowan playing right back for them. Didn't let him get too far away from him, didn't let him progress too far. There was a countless times where Burke ended up getting the ball, and I think he was looking for McGowan to be there, but Serrano and Pittman just kind of doubled up on him, and I think Burke, we kept him very, very quiet. He seemed to be too interested to win free kicks, maybe because he was frustrated that nobody was coming near him. As you mentioned, Bartley was man-marking Power, so the support there wasn't for him. And yeah, our shape definitely did nullify those kind of supporting runs from the Kilmarnock players.
I think that it's encouraging this season, and we spoke about it at length on the podcast about the size of our squad and how encouraging it is that we can bring players in without the detriment to the team and how we play, and the ability to change formations and still do a job against teams. And I think that that showed against Kilmarnock. You know, you mentioned that we changed formation, but we were still solid and in the game, and we had players like Holt that can come in, a player like Alan Forrest, who's arguably been a star man this season, dropping onto the bench. You know, you've got Robinson dropping onto the bench, and someone like Jet coming in, who I've got my own feelings about, but you know, he done a job and he got his goal. So it is really encouraging for us this season. You know, it wasn't working earlier in the season, but we've sort of changed the system slightly. We're being far more attacking and pressing and in teams' faces. But again, like I mentioned earlier, we've got the ability to dog it out and to fight for every ball and just get in teams' faces and make it awkward for them as well. So there's a lot to be encouraged about, definitely. You know, I asked this question in the previous segment. So again, before we move on, I'll ask again. You know, it was a top win against a good Kilmarnock side away from home. A lot of standout players, but who was the proper standout for you? Callum Brown, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I was just about to come in with that because, you know, I was looking at that there. I knew you were going to ask that, but I think it's a bit of it's a difficult question. I'm interested to hear what you have got to say. I'm not sitting on the fence or anything, but I thought it was such a team performance. I don't think anybody really stood out particularly. You know, maybe I'd have to pump for Scott Robinson because of that goal that won the game. You know, that individual bit of brilliance. Such a clever player when he came on. He sort of changed the game, in my opinion. You know, I was starting to settle for a point, and then Robbo came on, and I sort of maybe give me that belief that we could have nicked something. So I know he only played maybe half an hour max, but you know, I'd probably go for Robbo. But yeah, it was such a brilliant team performance, and again, back to that, you know, Livy that we all love.
But for me, the stick-outs were the two centre halves. I think Guthrie and Fitzwater really didn't get much trouble out of Kabamba, and we spoke about how big a problem he's caused for other teams throughout the season. I think he was in their back pocket for the whole game, and obviously still, I know you said Buck was a wee bit quieter, but we know what quality he has when he gets deliveries into the box, and I think we handled that aspect of it really well. And the most pleasing thing, I know, Andy, you spoke about we look kind of threatening again, but I think we've cut out those individual mistakes as such at the back. We've looked so much more solid the last 6 games under Martindale. We're not given really any sort of good clear-cut opportunities to teams at the back now. And I think, you know, I've touched on it the last couple of seasons with we've not had a kind of regular centre-half pair, and it's kind of chopped and changed a little bit. And I think that's been detrimental sometimes does. But I think the last few games you've seen that other than Lawson being in for the air game at left back, we've had the same back four in, and it's made a massive difference. But I think Guthrie and Fitzwater were the two that really kind of stuck out for me.
I would go with Holt. He gets the assist for the winner, and I think for the majority of the game, he was the legs in the middle of the park yesterday for us. He was doing a lot of the pressing to help out Jet when Jet wasn't able to do it. He's going into the channels to try and close him down. He's in and about it. I think that helped us try and control the middle of the park yesterday and not lose those individual battles.
Yeah, I've got to agree there. I think Jason Holt was probably the man of the match for me as well. He's probably a player who we had that the wee run of games before there where he dropped out of the team. And you're starting to think, oh, is this like us starting to get a settled midfield, basically Sybil, Bartley and Pittman. But the game against Hamilton, the game against Kilmarnock, he's made a massive statement that he needs to be in this team. As Callum said, that kind of drive that he brings in, and even at the very last minute there, like how switched on he is. You see as soon as Stryjek takes that free kick, he's running forward, anticipating a knockback, gets into the right area, perfect header to Robinson, and then the finish gets us a reward. So yeah, I've got to agree with Callum. I think that Jason Holt deserves man of the match there as well. Based on what Ewan's saying as well about how solid defences, that's 2 away games in a row. We've only had 2 shots on target against us. That's absolutely phenomenal and shows how good we are being at. And that goes for the defenders and the midfielders are closing down shots, blocking shots, just not giving the teams any chance to punish us, really.
Yeah, I was going to go for. Apparently, we've signed a new player. So I was actually going to go for Nicky Devine personally. I thought he was he was excellent. According to Neil McCann, anyway, we've somehow went out with the transfer market and signed someone new. But no, on a serious note, I think he's a spot on. I'm kind of agree with you, Callum. Actually, that I think across the team we showed great bottle, and it's difficult to just sort of pick one player out. You know, there's two or three. Jason Holt was exceptional. I thought Sybil done well. Guthrie and Fitzwater, like you mentioned, Ewan. But if I was to have to choose one, I think again Guthrie. I think showed that bit of leadership for me again in the sort of defence and won just about everything in the air. I thought it was excellent. But obviously, it's another massive win. It's another monkey off our back, so to speak, away to Rugby Park and our struggles at Kilmarnock over the years. So, you know, this football, this winning, it keeps getting better and better, and long may it continue.
Next up for Livy, it's yet another game that presents an opportunity to right some wrongs. It's against an Aberdeen side that we've failed to beat since our return to the top flight and record any kind of win against since 2004. In the first of two match previews, we'll take a look at Wednesday night's home game against Aberdeen. Martindale seems to have the magic touch of rewriting his history books. Can we do it again here?
I think it's safe to say Aberdeen have been the bogey side since we won promotion. They seem to have that bit of a knack against us. But the thing is, every game against them has been really tight. Other than the 2-0 game, there's only ever been a goal in it in all the games. So we've been well in the games against Aberdeen. But I think what Aberdeen have done is I think they've matched our kind of the ugly side of the game. And I think maybe their quality and kind of the final thirds shone a little bit in those games. I have to say, I wasn't expecting much from Aberdeen this season. I'd predicted them to kind of start sliding down the table. Wasn't that impressed with them when I saw them last year, but I think they have kicked on again under Derek McInnes this season. I think a couple of signings he's made, McCrory in particular in the middle of the park, Ferguson really sort of coming into his own as well in the midfield. And I think it is going to be a really tough game. I think this is certainly the biggest test we've faced since Martindale's got the job full time. But you know what? We're full of confidence just now. So we've got to fancy our chances of picking up some sort of result against them. But I do think it's going to be a very tough afternoon. Because as I say, I think Aberdeen have that element of them where they can go toe-to-toe on the kind of ugly side of the game. And I think that we've improved on that massively over the last few weeks. But I think that's, as I say, they maybe have that little bit more quality if they can kind of win the individual battles across the park.
They never really seem to play that well against us and always seem to get something, which, frustrates the life out of me. I think there was, in particular, a game last season that, again, on another day, we could have won 2 or 3-0, I'm not exaggerating, and they somehow won 2-0 through 2 shots on target. So I think if we play how we've been playing, and get that bit of luck, I think we could, get something from the game. I don't think a draw would be a terrible result, especially against Aberdeen, as we mentioned, over the last couple of seasons. But a win would be huge. Again, it would be a huge lift, obviously. Angus just mentioned there that unwanted record, not won since 2004. It's a weird one, though, because Aberdeen are, I think, on paper, they've got a really good side, but they don't seem to ever play that well or, play a really nice style of football. I think that, they're perfectly on paper set up to do so. They don't really play that well. They've got Ferguson, McCrory in the middle of the park, the likes of Hayes, Hedges, Neil McGinn, guys like that, and they just don't play to their strengths, in my opinion. Don't really get the ball down. It seems to go long to like a Cosgrove or a Main. But they are a good team. I think if we can sort of stop the threat of, I think Lewis Ferguson for me is their key player. Definitely, I think the top scorer for them this season as well. He's sort of, if we can stop him from getting on the ball and trying to dictate the midfield, we've spoken about it over the last couple of games. Jason Holt, Sybil in there for us, Bartley, they've sort of dictated the last couple of games. So if we can control that midfield and win that midfield battle, I think we'll be fine. I also think, I touched on it a wee bit earlier with Mullins set pieces. I think if we can sort of get into good areas, win set pieces, I think they're a bit of a team that they're obviously good in the air and things, but the marking, I think it was St Johnstone they played just there at the weekend. The goal that St Johnstone scored is an absolute gift, and especially with Mullins' dead balls, I think we could certainly exploit them from set pieces.
I think, reading a lot of the Aberdeen Twitter, again, we spoke about it last season, Callum. You've got a few mates that are Aberdeen fans. I think it's mad that they're even contemplating wanting McInnes out the door. Again, despite not playing particularly well, it's a results-driven business and they're winning games. We predicted at the start of the season, Callum, that they would probably be pretty rubbish, but win games somehow, and that's exactly what they're doing. So they're a team definitely to watch, and it'll be a tough one. But again, reading between the lines, it seems like they're struggling when teams come and press them and are difficult to break down. And I feel like we're both of them just now. Defensively, we've been solid, defending our box really well, back to the best that we have been, and doing that, a settled back four again. And also, we're pressing the ball high up. So this is a great opportunity for us to go and pick up a win against Aberdeen for the first time in however many years, what a long time it's been. The one thing that does concern me, and again I touched on it, is I think Aberdeen's only lost 1 in 9 away from home. So they're a good side away from home, and they've got players that can hurt us. You mentioned that, you and the likes of Hedges, and Johnny Hayes was a great bit of business bringing him back to Aberdeen. Players that can cause you problems. Sam Cosgrove, we all know how good a goal scorer he is. Curtis Main, despite just being a big lump up there, he draws defenders to you, creating space for others. So there's definite possibilities for Aberdeen to cause us problems. But I think we should be looking after ourselves. The group of players we've got are fully confident. We'll go into this game after what happened against Kilmarnock fully confident, and we'll be eager to get out there and again right some wrongs that's happened to us. Callum, you mentioned exactly the game I was thinking about, the 2-0 game that we could have won 2 or 3-0 ourselves. It was absolute madness, that game. I don't think any Livingston fan went away wondering how on earth we'd lost the game, and Aberdeen fans going away saying how have we won the game. It was just, and that seems to be the pattern against Aberdeen over the years for whatever reason. So yeah, I think you're right, Angus, in what you said. I think it's about time you right some wrongs against Aberdeen, and this is an ideal opportunity to do that.
For me, I think the midfield battle is going to be absolutely key on Wednesday. I think that depending how we line up in the middle of the park, and also depends really what Aberdeen play, if they revert back to playing 4 at the back or they continue with the 3. I've seen that they've constantly been changing the formation, and I think they've got that versatility with McCrory. They can move him into centre mid, or they can play him at centre half, and it gives them that other option. I think that us, if we can set our team up and go with the same midfield 3, if all the guys are feeling all right and everything, it's a lot to ask of the guys, especially this time of year with the amount quick turnaround for games. And what we ask of our players is we ask them basically to run through a brick wall, and that intensity for the full 90 minutes. So I think if we can line up that way, then we've got a chance of winning the midfield battle. Don't let Ferguson have time on the ball. Don't let him try and dictate. And also mark him in and around the box. Watch the runs into that he makes on beyond the strikers, and that's how they pick up a lot of goals. I also think that there's probably their versatility out wide. They've got Kennedy and Hayes. If they play them as wing backs, I think we can get in behind Kennedy on the right hand side. I think that that's something that we should be looking to exploit. And then, because I always thought when he was at St Johnstone he was a good player, but he was never very good at tracking back. Always thought that that's where we could get joy when we played them before. So I think it's going to be a massive game. I think we've got to go back to defending from the front. We can't let their centre halves have time in the ball. Let them go long, and let's try and get back our foot in the ball and see what we can do from there.
They're quite a strange team, Aberdeen, because as you touched on about how the fans are quite unhappy with Derek McInnes, you would think that they've had like a really awful season, but they've only lost 3 games so far this league campaign, and 2 of them have been against Rangers. So it's easy for us to say, probably, as a team who are like enjoying kind of like a decent period. Aberdeen fans, they're kind of maybe in the same bracket as Hibs and Hearts now. It's never kind of enough. They want to kind of keep progressing, and maybe they're feeling that they're kind of going back a little bit under McInnes. But as Andy said earlier, they've only lost one of the last 9 away games. With that as well, though, they've only won one of the last 7. So they've drawn a lot of away games. So recently against Hamilton, Motherwell, and St Mirren, I think they were the last 3 ones that they drew. I think there's a 2-0 win against Kilmarnock in between them as well. So they're definitely a team who have a wee bit of patchy form on the road, and welcome them to the Tony Macaroni Arena. We shouldn't be fearing them at all, especially with how we've been playing. Obviously, though, they do have some very, very good players, and we will need to be very cautious as we've seen before against them, that they have like those individual moments of brilliance. You remember the game earlier this season, the goal that was it Wright scored when linked up with Hedges. Like, that's absolutely phenomenal play. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Johnny Hayes and Niall McGinn, you know what those kind of players can do. They can punish you if you give them the opportunity to. But also, I think Callum Brown made a very, very good point about the goal that they conceded against St Johnstone, which may offer us some opportunities. They deploy a kind of like zonal marking, and for some reason that means sometimes they just leave players to go unmarked completely, and you've seen that with the goal with Liam Gordon getting in, free header, and he manages to dip Joe Lewis somehow. With Josh Mullins' deliveries that we've seen so far in the last couple of weeks, John Guthrie's also winning so many like headers from set pieces lately. His goal against Hamilton, his goal against St Johnstone, should have scored against Killie. So that's definitely something I think we could exploit. And if we get that right and get a bit of joy from that, then there's absolutely no reason that we could get a result from this game.
So we'll just, before we move on quickly at the Hibs game, we'll quickly do predictions here. Callum Waugh, you're on form here. I think it's 4 and 5 you've got correct. So we'll start with you for this one.
I'm going to be positive and go 2-1 Livy.
Yeah, I'm having a shocker this season, but I've been predicting draws recently for us, and we've been winning, so I'll predict another draw and hope that we win, so I'll go 1 each.
Aberdeen have got a great knack of just picking up a point, so I'm going to go for 2 each.
I'm with you, Callum Brown. I'm going to go for a 1 each draw for this one.
Yeah, I was going to go a 1 each draw, but given that the 2 years have already gone for it, I'm going to go 1-0 Livy, and hopefully we can obviously pick up a win. But you know, it's a big game. It'll be good to get another monkey off our back, like you said in your little build up there, Angus. You know, it's been a long time since we beat Aberdeen, but Martindale seems to have the knack of doing the business, and hopefully that can continue in this one.
Finally, this week, we're going to take a look at our trip to Easter Road. It will be our first game of 2021. With the game on Wednesday night before this, we aren't going to spend too long on it, but I'm sure the players will want to put right that pretty awful performance and result earlier in the season against this high-flying Hibs size, won't we, boys?
Yeah, definitely. The second game of the season, first home game, it was probably one of the worst performances I've seen from us over the last 4 or 5 years. It was such an abject display kind of all across the park. It just wasn't the Livingston that we've come to expect. But since then we have improved, especially over the last kind of month or so since Davy's taken the reins. And I always think against Hibs, it's a team that we really suit playing against. I think over the past few years, they've had a bit of a soft centre to them. Yes, they have a lot of talented players on the ball in an attacking sense, but you've always been able to get at the centre of them. And, you know, if you have a strong spine to your team, I think you can always get the better of Hibs. On the flip side of that, though, I do think Jack Ross, as much as I'm not a fan of Jack Ross, he has addressed that. I think Hibs are a bit harder to break down. I think they've almost sacrificed a little bit of the kind of that bit of flair in the middle of the park to have a bit more balance to the team, and I think that's shown with their current league position. I think they have been a bit of a different animal since he's came in. I think I saw a stat that only Celtic and Rangers have accumulated more points in the league than Hibs have since Jack Ross came in. So I think that's testament to him and the business that he's done. The big threat, I think, is Kevin Nisbet. I think everyone's aware of that. He's certainly knocking on the door of the national side for the Euros next year, and he's probably been one of the signings of the season in the Premiership as well. He's really stepped up from the Championship and led the line brilliantly. But I think he's an all-round kind of number 9. I think he has a bit of everything in his locker. He can run in behind, he can hold the ball up, he's good in the air, good with the ball on the ground as well. So I think he's the one that we're going to need to really watch. Martin Boyle's another obvious one. He causes us a lot of problems. It causes a lot of teams problems just with his pace, but I think he's added that bit end product to his game. But it's a game I think we're going to be a different animal to what Hibs faced in the season, and I think we've got the tools at our disposal to cause Hibs a few problems and hopefully get a positive result.
Do you know, Hibs are another team that I think I made a comment last season or the season before without doing any research whatsoever. It was always a team I felt I had good feelings against going into. But looking back at our record at Easter Road, it's actually not that good at all. I might be wrong here, but 2005, the last time we won at Easter Road, we've obviously picked up, I think the last 3 games we've drawn the last 3 at Easter Road. But again, we've not won there for a long time. It's another game that we go into under Martindale. We're rewriting history. Can we do it here? I don't see why not. It's definitely a game I'm sure the players will use to motivate them as that second game of the season, because you and I agree with you. I think it's probably up there with one of the worst performances we've put in 4 or 5 seasons quite easily. We were well off the pace. It could have been more than 4-1 that day. We're that bad. So I think that'll be used as motivation for the players. Callum, you mentioned the midfield battle for the game on Wednesday. I think it's even more so in this game. Gogic just went in there and he's almost replaced Bartley, the player that they were struggling to find last season, which was why Jack Ross came in to steady the ship a little bit. They've now brought Gogic in to replace Bartley. I think that'll be a huge battle in there, who can get on top there. And I think you're right, Ewan. Martin Boyle always causes us problems with his pace. But I think the encouraging thing is, I'm still not convinced by the Hibs defence. I think Porteous can be rash in a tackle. I think he can definitely be got at. And again, it all goes down to how we perform in terms of who we put up there. Can we get Robbo up there and be nippy around and win fouls and put balls into the box and cause chaos in there? And I don't see why we can't go there and pick up a positive result the form we're in, despite what will happen on Wednesday. I would go into this game with a lot of confidence.
I'd maybe target down their left-hand side, obviously down our right wing. We've got the attacking threat of Josh Mull and Nicky Devlin potentially on the overlap. Obviously, you've got the chance of maybe getting caught out, with a Hibs left winger maybe playing high up the park. But I think if you look at their left backs, I don't know who they'll play, obviously. I think they played Josh Doig at Ibrox. Again, a wee bit caught out defensively, young lad. Brilliant going forward, and he's had a very good season. But again, I think he's there to be got at defensively. And if they don't go with him, I think it's either Mackie or Lewis Stevenson. So I don't think they're particularly great defensively. Stevenson, of course, is very experienced, but in terms of pace or whatever, I think Mullen and Devlin would win those battles. And if we can get maybe down that right hand side, get balls into the box and cutbacks in, I think I think that'll be good for an attacking threat. And in terms of defensively, you have touched on it, of course, for the midfield battle. Again, their centre halves are there to be got at, but we've been very solid, at the back the last few games. There's no reason why we should maybe fear anyone other than maybe Kevin Nisbet. I think Doig had been suspended, but he'll probably be back for this. They're obviously a good partnership, caused us all sorts of problems. But if we can nullify Nisbet, I think he's obviously their main threat. Boyle is an absolute danger, but if we can maybe put somebody on Nisbet, maybe the two centre halves on, Fitzwater and Guthrie both on Doig and Nisbet, sort of a man marking job. That they'll be interesting to see those battles. But yeah, hopefully, again, we've spoken about it throughout this episode. Davy Martindale seems to be sort of rewriting these records. And that's St Johnstone now we've won away at, Kilmarnock as well. Maybe since that's been happening, maybe we can go on and break another record of a very, very long time without an away win at a ground.
The idea of Hibs has been the same for kind of several years. They've got like the attacking quality to punish teams, but also at the back they are very, very shaky. I mean, we've seen Nisbet and Doyle score plenty of goals this season. We've also seen mistakes from Porteous, Hanlon, and even Paul McGinn's given away quite a few like soft penalties in the last couple of months. So it really kind of depends what kind of balance Hibs kind of strike. And I think the way that we play will have a large say in how that goes. The first game earlier in the season, we encouraged them and let them do whatever they want, essentially, in that first half. All three of the goals that came in from the 6-yard box, like, you can't let free balls come in uncontested into your box like that and not expect to get hammered, essentially. So, but the way that we've been performing and defending and how we've defended wide areas and limited teams to chances will give us a massive boost going into this game, as well as how we've started to go forward as well. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting matchup, I think. We need to be at it from the very, very start, like we were last season, where it was a 2-each game where we went 2-0 up before half-time and we're cruising. Very, very important to keep that going on through the entire game, because I remember at that game, I think we kind of sat off straight away in the second half, and when you sit off and you let likes of like Martin Boyle, who came on and scored the equaliser, you let like Nisbet and that keep coming at you, they're probably going to get chances and they probably are going to score because they do have that quality in their side. But yeah, interesting game and one that I'm looking forward to.
I think that sums up the analysis of the game perfectly well. I don't think there's really much else that we can add to it. So we'll just go into predictions, which will probably save the listeners' ears as well, because they've heard all of us ramble on for enough. So first of all, Ewan, prediction for this game on the second.
I'm going to go for a positive result. I'm going to go for a draw. I think Hibs have only won 3 games at Easter Road this season. I think they've drawn quite a few. So I fancy us to go there and frustrate. I'm going to go for 1 each.
Desmond, for me, we 2-2.
I'm maybe not as optimistic. I'm going to go with Hibs 2, Livy 1.
And that's Angus sacked for the podcast. Right, well, 2 draws predicted, 1 defeat. I'm going to go for a win then. I'm going to go 2-1 Livy.
And I'm going to go the same as you. I think 1-1. We've drew our last 3 at Easter Road, so I think it will continue in that same trend.
Magic. Big game against Hibs in the new year. Let's hope the momentum keeps on going and we continue to keep the ball rolling and keep on winning.
As we mentioned on the last episode, it's a busy time with games coming thick and fast, but we're trying our best to record as many review and preview episodes as we can during this festive period. With that being said, if you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Ewan said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search TalkLivi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. But we're also on YouTube, so don't forget to go over there and subscribe to the channel. But if none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website by searching talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
So that is it for this week's episode, our last one of 2020, a pretty awful year, of course, for everybody. But doing this podcast, speaking for myself and hopefully for all of you guys as well, sharing our passion for the football club has really helped us get through it. And hopefully, our ramblings on have helped you get through the difficult times as well. We, of course, wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for all of you listening. So thank you very much for supporting us throughout the year. And we'd like to continue that going into the new year as well, of course. But for now, and a final time in 2020, thank you all for listening. From myself, Andy, Callum, Angus and Ewan, we wish you all the best for the new year.
Livingston, Livingston, our love will never die. West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ambervale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ambervale Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier Division.